I'm Rabbi Justus Baird, and I'm the director of the Center for Multi-Faith Education at Auburn Theological Seminary in New York. My question for the bloggers is, why are there so many different religious traditions in the world? Is that something that God wants? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? If you were in charge of the world, would there be one religious tradition or multiple religious traditions? Auburn Seminary is very committed to equipping bold and resilient leaders who bridge religious divides, who pursue justice, who build community, who heal the world. And so part of our work in training leaders, especially religious leaders, is to really work on how religious leaders are trained, because most of them are trained in a specific tradition, usually in a seminary or a seminary-like institution. And since actually 2004, we've been bringing faculty from around the country to talk about what it is that you do when you train religious leaders. We also have programming for seminarians directly to experiment with models of education for seminarians. And the study that we recently did, we wanted to get a better sense of what was going on out there in the field of theological education, if you will. So we decided to study half of the accredited seminaries in America. There's roughly about 300 accredited seminaries, and we took half of them, 150 of them, and we tried to find out exactly what are they teaching at each of these seminaries about other faiths. And we found three things after we did the study. We just finished the study a few months ago. First, we found that there is a very surprising, I don't know if I'd say shocking, but a surprising number of things being taught at these seminaries. So we found over 1,200 academic courses, not including experiential learning and travel learning and other kinds of things, but 1,200 academic courses at these 150 seminaries around the country, teaching about other faiths. That's the first thing we found. The second thing we found is that Judaism and Islam were almost exactly as likely to be offered at the different seminaries. So by that I mean at all of the non-Jewish seminaries, all the Christian schools and the emergent non-Christian schools other than rabbinical schools, 2/3 of them offered a course on Judaism. And at all of the non-Muslim schools, 2/3 of them offered a course on Islam. So that you might have expected, because of sort of the history of Jewish-Christian encounter, that it would have been much heavier on Judaism, but we found an almost equal representation of Judaism and Islam. And then the third finding that we found is that there's different theological foundations for why a seminary would teach about another faith to their future religious leaders. Sometimes they think it's because it will prepare them better for a religiously diverse world. That's one reason. Another reason is because they think it will help them grow spiritually, that they'll learn more about their own faith. And the third reason is that it will help you proselytize better. And we actually found quite a few courses at conservative seminaries that specifically were to learn about another religion so that you could proselytize to people of that faith much more effectively. After the study really fits into Auburn's multi-year work into helping seminaries get better at multi-faith education. So we have a network of over 100 faculty from almost 80 different seminaries around the country that we've been working with since 2004. And we hope, and now what we're going to do is take our faculty seminars, which have been here in New York, and do them regionally around the country. And so the findings of these studies are going to be incorporated into all of that work that we do with seminary faculty. So before I went to rabbinical school, I was an entrepreneur. It was not something I grew up wanting to be. It's something that sort of happened to me after college, and found myself for about 6 years working on a variety of high-tech startups. Most of them failed miserably, and I learned a ton about myself and about the world through those failures. One of them was a semi-successful venture called Questia, which was an online library in the social sciences and humanities. So in my own personality, I still consider myself an entrepreneur, an innovator. It's just part of who I am. And as I became a rabbi, I understood that real, or that deep desire to innovate, to be connected also to a deep love of tradition. So for me, being entrepreneurial or being innovative is the flip side of tradition, and that without both, no religious tradition or no organization can survive in the long term. You have to both preserve the core of who you are, and you have to constantly innovate around the edges and make yourself relevant. So, for example, other work that I've done in the past, some of my research into bioethics and sort of Jewish responses to bioethics, would be another example of trying to make an old, deep tradition relevant for the challenges of today. As we struggle with our questions of our identity, which and when you get into the world of genetics, become questions of what does it mean to be human. Our religious traditions have incredible depth that we need to mine in order to answer really tough questions like that. The interfaith youth movement around the world has gone through what I might call a minor explosion in the last few years. Internationally, there's new players in the space, like the Tony Blair Faith Foundation is doing really interesting projects with schools in different countries around the world. Here at Auburn, we have a 10-year-old project called Face to Face, Faith to Faith, which brings teens from South Africa, Northern Ireland, Israel, Palestine, and the U.S. together. Across the United States, the Interfaith Youth Corps has sparked a real movement and interest, sort of captured the interest that's growing. And what I see happening is that movement is really grounded in incredible local interest at the metropolitan level and at the local level in bringing youth of different faiths together for a variety of reasons. And whether it's a program like Walking the Walk in Philadelphia that for a number of years has been doing really interesting interfaith youth work, or programs in Boston or here in Manhattan, Auburn has some pilot stage programs as well. There seems to be interest not only among unaffiliated youth to get together, people who are searching for their identity, but also among affiliated religious communities who are saying to really prepare our adherents for a future in which they live in a religiously diverse world, they have to have relationships with people of other faiths, they have to know about those other faiths, and they need to know how to join hands across lines of religious difference in order to bring more justice into the world.